Before the gods, before mortals, before epic tales of heroes and monsters, there was just chaos. From this formless void, the universe was born, sparking a saga of creation, betrayal, and war that would shape the very foundations of Western civilization. This is the complete, chronological story of Greek mythology, from the birth of the cosmos to the fall of the heroes. Section 1. The Primordial Chaos. In the beginning, there was no earth, no sky, no sea. There was only a vast, silent, and empty darkness known as chaos. Think of chaos less as a god and more as a state of being, a formless, gaping void. From this nothingness, the first beings, the primordial deities, emerged. First came Gaia, the earth. She was the foundation of everything, a nurturing entity who rose from the void to become the solid ground beneath our feet. Almost at the same time, Tartarus came into being, the great, shadowy pit deep within the earth, a place of punishment and confinement. Then came Eros, the powerful force of love and procreation, whose presence would ensure life could go on. Finally, from the depths of chaos emerged Erebus, the embodiment of darkness, and his sister Nyx, the goddess of night. They filled the void with shadow, and together they had two children, Ether, the bright, pure upper air, and Hemera, the day. Now a living world, Gaia felt profoundly lonely. So, from her own being, she gave birth to Uranus, the sky. He was her equal, a vast, starry dome that arched over her completely. He was her son ... but he also became her husband. It's strange, but in Greek mythology, it's best to just get used to it. Together, they also brought forth the Aurea, the mountains, and Pontus, the barren sea. The children of Gaia and Uranus were powerful and frankly monstrous. First came the three Cyclopes, one-eyed giants and master craftsmen. Then came the Hecatoncheires, fearsome giants with 50 heads and 100 hands each, whose strength was terrifying to behold. Finally, Gaia gave birth to the 12 Titans, 6 male and 6 female, who were the first divine dynasty. The most cunning and ambitious of them all was the youngest, Cronus. Section 2. The Rise of the Titans. Uranus, however, turned out to be a cruel and paranoid father. He looked at the might of his children, especially the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, and grew terrified they would one day overthrow him. So, he imprisoned his monstrous children deep within the earth, within Gaia herself, causing her immense pain. Her love for Uranus turned to pure hatred. She fashioned a great sickle from flint and went to her Titan children, pleading with them to rise up against their father. They were all frozen with fear, all except one, Cronus, the youngest and boldest. He took the sickle and agreed to his mother's plan. That night, as Uranus descended to embrace Gaia, Cronus sprang from his hiding place and attacked his father, castrating him and seizing power. He flung his father's severed members into the sea. According to one famous version of the story, from the sea foam that churned around them, a new goddess was born, Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. With Uranus defeated, Cronus became the new king of the cosmos. The era of the Titans had begun. But this peace wouldn't last. Cronus, despite his victory, was haunted by the same paranoia that had consumed his father. A prophecy warned that he, too, would be overthrown by one of his own children. To prevent this, Cronus came up with a horrific solution. He married his sister, the Titaness Rhea, and as she gave birth to their children, he swallowed each one whole. One by one, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon were devoured. Rhea was heartbroken. Desperate to save her next child, she sought advice from her mother, Gaia. When Rhea was ready to give birth to her 6th child, she traveled to the island of Crete and had her son Zeus in secret. She then returned to Cronus and handed him a large stone wrapped in blankets. Blinded by fear, Cronus didn't notice the trick and swallowed the stone, believing he had once again cheated fate. Section 3. The Titanomachi. Hidden away in a cave, Zeus grew to manhood. When he was fully grown, he returned to his father's court, disguised as a cupbearer. With the help of the Titaness Midas, he mixed a potion into Cronus's drink. It caused Cronus to violently vomit up his contents, and one by one, Zeus's siblings emerged, fully grown and furious. Now united, Zeus and his siblings declared war on Cronus and the Titans. This kicked off the Titanomachi, a cataclysmic 10-year war that shook the cosmos to its core. The older gods fought from Mount Othrys, while the younger gods, led by Zeus, fought from Mount Olympus. Realizing he needed an ace up his sleeve, Zeus descended into Tartarus and freed the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, whom Cronus had kept imprisoned. Grateful, the Cyclopes forged incredible weapons. They gave Zeus his signature Thunderbolt. To Poseidon, they gave a trident that could shake the earth. And to Hades, they gave a helmet of darkness that made him invisible. With these new weapons and the raw power of the 100-handed giants on their side, the tide of the war turned for good. Zeus unleashed his thunderbolts, Poseidon shattered mountains with earthquakes, and the Hecatoncheires hurled boulders, overwhelming the Titans. Ultimately, the Olympians were victorious. Cronus and the Titans who fought with him were thrown down into Tartarus, guarded by the very monsters they had feared. The Titan Atlas, a leader in the war, received a special punishment. He was forced to stand at the edge of the world and hold up the heavens on his shoulders for all time. Section 4. The Reign of the Olympians. With the Titans defeated, a new order began. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades drew lots to divide the world. Zeus became the king of the gods, ruler of the sky and Mount Olympus. Poseidon became lord of the seas, and Hades was given dominion over the underworld. The victors made their home on Mount Olympus and became known as the Olympian gods. It's important to remember that Greek mythology has tons of regional variations, so the official lineup of the 12 Olympians can sometimes change, but here are the main players. At the head was Zeus. His wife and sister, Hera, was the queen of the gods and goddess of marriage. There was Poseidon, ruling the waves, and Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. The next generation really solidified their power. From Zeus's own head, after he swallowed his first wife Midas to stop a prophecy sprang Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, born fully grown and in armor. Then there were Apollo, the god of music and prophecy, and his twin sister Artemis, goddess of the hunt. Ares, the hot-headed god of war, was the son of Zeus and Hera. Hephaestus, the master craftsman, was Hera's son, cast out of Olympus for his appearance, but later welcomed back. Hermes was the swift-footed messenger of the gods. And of course, there was Aphrodite, the captivating goddess of love and beauty. Rounding out the 12 was Hestia, the gentle goddess of the hearth, who eventually gave up her seat for the newcomer, Dionysus, a god of wine, revelry, and madness. Together, these gods governed the universe, and their lives were a constant drama of alliances, rivalries, and meddling in the mortal world. Section 5. The Creation of Humanity and the Role of Prometheus. With the gods in charge, the world was ready for mortals. The job of creation fell to two Titan brothers who had sided with the Olympians. Prometheus, whose name means forethought, he was the smart one, and his brother Epimetheus, or afterthought. You can probably guess how this goes. Epimetheus eagerly started making animals, giving them all the good stuff: fur, claws, wings, and speed. But in his rush, he used up all the gifts. When it was humanity's turn, there was nothing left. Men were left naked and vulnerable. Prometheus, seeing this, felt responsible. He decided to give humanity a game-changer that belonged only to the gods: fire. He snuck into the forge of Hephaestus, stole a glowing ember, and brought it down to earth. Fire gave humans the spark of civilization, the ability to make tools, cook food, and find warmth in the darkness. Zeus was furious. He saw this as a direct threat to the god's power. For his crime, Zeus had Prometheus chained to a mountain. Every day, an eagle would come and eat his liver, and every night it would grow back, making his torture eternal. But Zeus wasn't done. He wanted to punish humanity too. He ordered Hephaestus to mold the first woman from clay. The gods gave her gifts. Aphrodite gave her beauty, while Hermes gave her a cunning and deceitful nature. Her name was Pandora, meaning all gifted. Zeus gave Pandora to Epimetheus as a bride. As a wedding present, Zeus gave her a sealed jar, which we usually call a box, thanks to a centuries-old mistranslation, and warned her never to open it. But Pandora was created with insatiable curiosity. Of course, she opened it. Instantly, a swarm of terrible evils flew out and spread across the world. Sickness, sorrow, war, and death. Terrified, Pandora slammed the lid shut, but it was too late. Only one thing remained trapped inside: hope. Section 6. The Age of Heroes. Part 1. This began the heroic age, when demigods and incredible mortals walked the earth. One of the earliest was Perseus, a son of Zeus. A prophecy said he would kill his grandfather, King Achilles. Terrified, the king locked his daughter, Danae, away. But Zeus visited her as a shower of golden rain, and Perseus was conceived. The king then cast them both into the sea, but they washed ashore on an island. Years later, the island's cruel king desired Danae and wanted to get rid of Perseus. He sent the young hero on a suicide mission: bring him the head of Medusa, a gorgon whose gaze turned men to stone. Aided by the gods, Perseus set off. He got an unbreakable sword, winged sandals, and a polished shield. He tricked the Graeae, 3 ancient sisters who shared one eye, into revealing where he could find an invisibility helmet and a magical bag. Using the reflection in his shield to avoid Medusa's gaze, Perseus snuck up and severed her head. On his way home, he rescued Princess Andromeda from a sea monster and married her. When he got back to Seriphos, he found the king forcing himself on his mother. Perseus confronted him, pulled out Medusa's head, and turned the king and his court to stone. But you can't talk about Greek heroes without talking about Heracles, or as the Romans called him, Hercules. He was another son of Zeus, and this infidelity earned him the unending wrath of Hera, Zeus's jealous wife. She spent his entire life trying to destroy him, starting by sending 2 snakes to his crib, which the infant hero effortlessly strangled. As a man, Heracles was a figure of immense strength. He married and had several children. But Hera's hatred was relentless. She sent a fit of madness upon him, causing him to murder his own family. When he came to his senses, he was consumed by guilt. To atone, he was commanded to serve King Eurystheus and perform any 10 labors the king set for him. Eurystheus, a coward, devised a series of seemingly impossible tasks. His first labor: slay the Nemean Lion, a beast whose fur was indestructible. Heracles' arrows just bounced off. His club shattered. So Heracles did what Heracles does best. He wrestled the thing and choked it to death. He then used the lion's own claws to skin it, wearing its hide as armor. Second, destroy the Lernaean Hydra, a multi-headed serpent. For every head he lopped off, 2 more grew back. It's a classic case of this isn't working. With his nephew Iolaus, they came up with a plan. Heracles would cut, and Iolaus would burn the stumps with a torch. Because he had help, Eurystheus said this labor didn't count. The tasks continued. He had to capture the sacred Cyrenian hind without harming it, and capture the giant Erymanthian boar, which terrified Eurystheus so much he hid in a jar. His 5th labor was a humiliating one: clean the stables of King Odysseus, which housed thousands of cattle, in one day. But Heracles was smart. He just rerouted 2 rivers to flush them clean. Eurystheus refused to count this one either, because he had arranged to be paid. He defeated the man-eating Stymphalian birds, captured the rampaging Cretan bull, and stole the flesh-eating Maras of Diomedes. He obtained the girdle of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, and stole the cattle of the three-bodied giant Geryon. With 2 labors voided, Eurystheus added 2 more. The 11th was to fetch the golden apples of the Hesperides. On his journey, Heracles freed Prometheus, who advised him to get help from the Titan Atlas. Heracles offered to hold the heavens while Atlas got the apples. When Atlas returned, he didn't want his old job back. Heracles pretended to agree, but asked Atlas to just hold the sky for a second so he could adjust his cloak. The foolish Titan obliged, and Heracles picked up the apples and simply walked away. His final labor: capture Cerberus, the 3-headed hound of the Underworld. Hades agreed, but only if Heracles used no weapons. He wrestled the beast into submission, showed him to Eurystheus, and then returned the dog to Hades. His penance was complete, and his name was immortal. Section 7. The Age of Heroes, Part 2. While Heracles was on his quests, other heroes were making names for themselves. One was Theseus, the great hero of Athens. At the time, Athens had a minotaur problem. The city was forced to send 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete every 9 years to be fed to the monster, who lived in a massive maze called the Labyrinth. Theseus volunteered to go as a sacrifice, determined to end the horror. He promised his father, King Aegeus, that if he succeeded, he'd change his ship's black sails to white on the journey home. In Crete, the king's daughter, Ariadne, fell in love with Theseus and gave him a ball of thread to find his way out of the labyrinth. Theseus went in, killed the Minotaur with his bare hands, and followed the thread back out. He fled with Ariadne, but abandoned her on an island. In his haste to get home, he forgot to change the sails. His father, seeing the black sails, assumed the worst and threw himself into the sea, which we now call the Aegean Sea. Around the same time, another great quest was underway: Jason and the Argonauts. Jason was the rightful heir to a throne stolen by his uncle Peleus. An oracle had warned Peleus to beware a man wearing one sandal. Years later, Jason arrived, conveniently missing one sandal. Fearing the prophecy, Peleus said Jason could have the throne if he brought back the legendary Golden Fleece. This was basically a death sentence, as the fleece was in a distant land, guarded by a dragon that never slept. Undaunted, Jason assembled a dream team of heroes, including Heracles himself, and they set sail on the ship Argo. After a journey full of peril, they reached Colchis. Here's where it gets complicated. The king's daughter, Medea, a powerful sorceress, fell madly in love with Jason. She helped him complete a series of impossible tasks set by her father, then used her magic to put the guardian dragon to sleep so Jason could grab the fleece. They fled back to Greece as heroes, but their story would end in betrayal and tragedy, as Jason's later actions would lead Medea to seek a terrible revenge. Section 8. The Great Epics. The heroic age goes out with a bang in its greatest conflict, the Trojan War. And it all started because of a divine popularity contest. At a wedding, Eris, the goddess of discord, tossed a golden apple into the party that read, "For the fairest." 3 goddesses claimed it: Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Zeus wisely refused to judge and passed the job to a mortal, Paris, a prince of Troy. Each goddess offered a bribe. Hera promised him power. Athena promised him wisdom and victory. Aphrodite promised him the most beautiful woman in the world. For Paris, the choice was easy. That woman was Helen, who was already married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta. Guided by Aphrodite, Paris went to Sparta, betrayed his host's hospitality, and abducted Helen, taking her back to Troy. Menelaus was enraged. He called on all the Greek chieftains who had sworn an oath to defend Helen's marriage. Led by Menelaus's brother, Agamemnon, the Greeks sailed for Troy. For 10 long years, the Greek army laid siege to the city. The war became a stage for legendary heroes. On the Greek side, there was Achilles, the greatest warrior of his generation, and Odysseus, the cunning king. On the Trojan side, the defense was led by the noble Prince Hector. After a bitter dispute with Agamemnon, Achilles refused to fight, and the Trojans gained the upper hand. In desperation, Achilles' best friend Patroclus put on his armor to rally the Greeks, but was killed by Hector. This brought Achilles back to the war, fueled by pure rage. He hunted down Hector, killed him in a climatic duel, and desecrated his body. Yet even with Hector gone, Troy didn't fall. Achilles himself was later killed by an arrow to his one weak spot, his heel. The war was finally ended, not by force, but by cunning. It was Odysseus who devised the plan for the Trojan horse. The Greeks pretended to sail away, leaving the giant wooden horse behind. The Trojans, thinking it was a victory trophy, dragged it into their city. That night, Greek soldiers hidden inside crept out, opened the gates, and the entire Greek army sacked and burned Troy to the ground. But for many heroes, getting home was a whole other adventure. The most famous is the story of Odysseus, whose 10-year struggle to return home is chronicled in the Odyssey. He had to outsmart the Cyclops Polyphemus, navigate between the 6-headed monster Scylla and the whirlpool Charybdis, resist the deadly song of the sirens, and escape the clutches of the sorceress Circe. After 20 years, Odysseus finally returned to Ithaca, disguised as a beggar, slew the men trying to marry his faithful wife, Penelope, and reclaimed his throne. Section 9. Tragic Tales and Lesser Myths. But not every myth is an epic war story. Some are smaller, more personal tragedies that serve as cautionary tales. There's the story of Daedalus and his son, Icarus. Daedalus, the inventor who built the labyrinth, was imprisoned on Crete. He made 2 pairs of wings from feathers and wax to escape. He warned Icarus not to fly too high or too low. But Icarus, thrilled with the feeling of flight, soared higher and higher. The sun melted the wax, his wings fell apart, and he plummeted into the sea. It's the ultimate warning against over-ambition flying too close to the sun. There's also King Midas, who wished that everything he touched would turn to gold. At first, he was ecstatic, but his joy turned to horror when his food, his drink, and even his beloved daughter turned to gold at his touch. He begged the god Dionysus to take the gift back, learning the hard way to be careful what you wish for. And there is the heartbreaking myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus was a musician of such divine skill he could charm rocks and trees. Soon after his wedding, his wife Eurydice died. Overcome with grief, Orpheus journeyed to the Underworld to bring her back. His music was so heartbreakingly beautiful that it moved even the cold hearts of Hades and Persephone. They agreed to let Eurydice return, but on one condition. Orpheus had to walk ahead and not look back until they both reached the sunlight. He began the long climb out. But as he neared the exit, unable to hear her footsteps, his faith wavered. Just as he stepped into the light, he turned around. In that instant, he saw Eurydice's spirit being pulled back into the darkness forever. He had lost her a second time, all because of a moment of doubt. These tales, along with those of Sisyphus, doomed to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, and Tantalus, cursed with endless hunger and thirst, are powerful stories about human folly and the often cruel nature of fate. The stories of Greek mythology are an endless well of drama, heroism, and tragedy. From the gods on Olympus to the heroes on earth, each myth reveals something new about the world and our place in it. If you've enjoyed this journey through the complete history of Greek mythology, please subscribe and let us know in the comments which myth or character is your favorite. Conclusion. From the formless beginning of chaos to the fiery fall of Troy, the story of Greek mythology is one giant interconnected saga that has captivated humanity for thousands of years. It's a world where gods act like petty, passionate mortals, and mortals can rise to the level of gods through sheer courage and wit. These myths explore the biggest questions of existence: creation, fate, and the struggle between order and chaos. They've shaped our art, our literature, and our very language. The names Zeus, Hercules, Achilles, and Odysseus are still part of our world, their stories retold and reinterpreted, proving that while the age of gods and heroes may be over, their stories are, in a word, immortal.